Okay, so the next operator that we are going to discuss is logical operator. Now, as the name suggests, it concerns itself with a logic. Now, when we talk about logic, it's all about the truth value, the true and false. So the output of this operator is obviously either true or false, but in contrast to a relational operator, the operands need to have some sort of a truth value. Only then they can be used with this kind of an operator. So we have a total of 3 logical operators. This is not, then we have and then we have or, right? So not, in terms of not, so we'll see an example of not. So what not actually does, it reverses the value. So if I have I'll write print, though it is not required in Jupyter Notebook, but still I'll do that. So if I write not true, right, not true, so it will give me false. So what it says, that this operator, not operator, it basically reverses the truth value, right, of its operand. So another thing that we can notice is that it is also a unary operator, right? It's also a unary operator. That means it only deals with one operand and not 2 operands like all of the other operators, right? Next we'll move, and obviously I'll talk about them in more detail later on. So the next operator is an AND. So now AND behaves in a logical AND manner that we have studied in our maths. So if I want to have print true, T should be capital because it's a keyword, true and true, right? So if I do that, it gives me true. Now I'll modify it. So if I write false in here, false, and if I execute it, so it will give me false. Now again, the thing that we need to notice in here is that AND is a binary operator because it has 2 operands. It has 2 operands to deal with, right? And its behavior is that whenever both the operands are true, only then AND operator will give you an answer of true. Else in all other cases, right, even if both of them are false. So if I modify them both to false, then also I'm gonna get false. So there is only one scenario where AND operator will give you a truth value of true when both its operands are true. Now the interesting thing is that in case of logical operator, we can also associate relational operator because as we remember, the output of logical operators in most of the cases are true or false. So we can also combine them, right? So I'll show you how it's being done. So if I write print 4 is less than 5 and 6 is less than 8, right? So what do you think the output will be? It's true, right? It is obviously true. Now why? Because 4 is less than 5. Yes, its truth value is true. It is true, right? And 6 is less than 8. It is also true. So both of them are true. So hence my AND operator is giving me true, right? So the next operator that we are going to discuss is OR, right? So if I do something of this sort, print true, again T should be capital, true or true, right? If I execute it, so I'm gonna get true as my output, right? Now again, let me modify it. So if I write true or false, and if I execute it, it's still giving me true. So now the difference between an AND operator and OR operator is in this scenario. You see, if one of the operand of an AND operation is false, the answer is going to be false. As simple as that. But in reverse, in an OR operator, if one of its operand is true, right? In this case, one of it is true, then the answer will be true. The false will occur when both its operands are false, right? So if I write false or false, right? So only in this scenario I'll get false. In all other scenarios, OR operation will give you true. That's some difference, right? Again, let me reiterate. In case of an AND operator, only when both the operands are true, only then it's gonna give you a true output. Else in all other cases, it will give you false. And in case of an OR operator, it is reverse. Only if both the operands are false, only then the OR operator will give you false. Else in all other cases, it will give you true, right? So this is the idea behind these basic operators. So we looked into NOT operator, we looked into and we looked into OR. And again, both and OR is binary operator, right? So what does it means? That it needs a minimum of 2 operands to deal with, right? We cannot go with a single operand as was the case in NOT operation, right? Fine. So now we will look into something interesting. Imagine if I write print 10 and 10. What do you think the answer will be? Can I execute it? We get 10. Now this is interesting if you notice. You see, as we have discussed earlier, that these logical operator needs to deal with logical operands only. They cannot deal with integers or strings or anything of that sort. Now how come it's executing and it is giving me an answer of 10 in place of true or false, right? So this is a bit confusing. So now the answer to this is that every object in Python, every object, whether it is a variable, whether it is a string, whether it's an integer, whether it's a complex number, whether it is any kind of data structure like list, you see tuple, sets, dictionary, anything, each and every object in Python will have a truth value associated with it. That is how the language is being designed. So for that, let's jump over to our blog page. You see, these 5 objects will have a truth value of false. And other than them, everything else will have a truth value of true, right? So none will be false, and obviously false will be false. That is pretty obvious. 0 of any numeric type. That is either it is 0 or in floating point format, that is 0.0. Shall I enlarge it? Right? I guess this will be more clear. Yeah. So these are certain objects which will have a false truth value. So none will have a false truth value, false, and 0.0 and 0j, it's a complex number format, a plus ij. That is how you write complex number in Python. Any kind of empty sequence, like this is an empty string, this is an empty tuple, this is an empty list. Now this is an empty dictionary. Now mapping means dictionary, right? So all of them will have a false truth value. Other than that, any number, any string that has something in it, right? Any kind of list that has values in it will have a truth value of true, right? So let us demonstrate it. So in its place, if I write something of that sort, print 0 and 10. Let's see what happens. It gives me 0, right? Now again, why? You see, in our discussion, any kind of numeric value that is 0 will have a false value. So basically what it says is something of this sort. False, false, and now this is not 0, it's a numeric value of 10, so the truth value will be true, right? False and true. So what is the output of this operation? Obviously we are aware of it, the output will be false, right? Because false and true will always give you false, right? So out of these two operands, which one has a false value? Obviously 0. 0 has the false value, so that is why we are getting 0 in here. That is, doesn't make sense? So that is the idea behind the truth value of an object in Python. So again, let me reiterate, none will have a false value. Obviously false will have a false value. 0 of any numeric type. Empty sequences empty string, empty tuple, empty list, and empty dictionary, all of them has a false value. Other than these 5 objects, everything else will have a truth value, whether it is 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to million and decimal places, doesn't matter, they will have a truth value. So does it make sense? So there are certain examples. So here we have seen that true and false is false, 10 and 10 is 10. Why? Because this is true, and answer will be true. Now the true value in both of them are same, so obviously we'll have 10. Now this is an interesting behavior. Let us check. Now if I write something of this sort, print and 12, right? And if I execute it, I'm gonna get 12. Now why is that? Now imagine from our previous discussion, 10 and 12 both have truth value, right? So true and true will be true. Now the thing is that which of these objects have a higher truth value, right? Higher truth value. Now evidently 12 has a higher value, so we can think of it in that sense that 12 has higher truth value, and because of that we are getting 12 in it, right? So now imagine if I do it in a reverse order, print I'll put a minus in here, minus 10 and minus 12, right? And if I execute it, I'm gonna get minus 12. Now the logic behind it is similar. Now both of them will have a negative value. So which has the highest negative value? That is what we are going to concern ourselves. Now 10 is more positive, to be honest, and 12 is more negative, and because of that we are going to have minus 12 in here. Does it make sense? So that is why we are going to have minus 12, right? So similar kind of an idea, as 12 was higher positive, so in this case also 12 is higher negative. So because of that I'll have minus 12. So does it make sense? So on our blog post you can see more examples. So again, 10 and minus 10 is minus 10, which is pretty obvious because this is true and this is false, and obviously true and false is false, so we are going to come up with minus 10, which is false. Now if this was the case with OR, as we can see in here, 10 or minus 10, so true or false will always give you true. Now which of these value have a higher truth value? This is 10 obviously, so that's why we have 10 as our output, right? So I guess it makes sense. Again, this is something very interesting in Python. You have to understand that all the objects in Python will have a truth value associated with it, right? So for more information, go through the blog post, right? And I hope it makes sense. Okay, stay tuned to the channel and subscribe, and see you again.